Hey class, a Ravenbound tier list has been requested, so I'll give it my best shot since I haven't played the game properly since I got the world record a couple of years ago when I beat all the bosses in the Betrayal in under 13 minutes. So first things first, we'll look at the three options you've got. So you've got your folk, your weapons, or your unique trait. Those are the three things you can pick before jumping into a game, before it becomes more like a roguelite where you can get different cards that boost your character. So first things first, with your folk, you've got the Ulvar. So whenever you drain a card, you gain 15% increased weapon damage. You have the human. Whenever you drain a card, you gain 80 coins. And the Simlar. Whenever you drain a card, you gain 2 mana. Each have their own specific uses where they might be better functionally. So if you're testing a few builds out, the Simlar might be better because you've got that extra mana. If you're going on a long run, then having the increased damage, just draining a card, is probably the best choice. And for the most part, Ulvar probably is the best choice. Or if you're just playing for speed and hunting specific cards from vendors and things like that, then having the human is probably your better option. Yeah, for me, I like the human, but the Ulvar is very, very close. I'd not usually play the Simlar. Next up, we have the weapon classes. So here's where it gets a little bit more interesting and ultimately depends on your personal playstyle. So firstly, you've got the hammer specialist. So secondary attacks against enemies with broken posture have 90% increased damage. You can only draw the hammer cards. So secondary attack is your forceful attack, and broken posture is when they're staggered. Then you've got the twin axe specialist. So while frenzied, your critical hit chance is increased 30%, and you can only draw twin axes. Twin swords, so frenzied damage is increased by 70%. So again, that's only if you're frenzied, and you can only draw twin swords. And dual wielder, whilst frenzied, your multi-strike is increased by 16%, and you can only get dual wielding weapon cards. You've then got Generalist, so weapon damage increased by 17% and armor increased by 5. You can draw any weapon card. Berserker, critical hit chance increased as you lose health. And so this 0.2% means if you had 10 missing health, you're 2% critical hit chance. And you can only draw axes. You've got the Great Weapon Master, so forceful attack, so that's your secondary attacks. I can notice it's actually been written multiple ways here, which again shows a lot about the game. Have 40% increased posture impact, so 40% stronger chance of staggering an opponent, which is knocking them down, and you can only draw the two-handed weapons. The Great Axe Specialist, so while frenzied, your posture impact, so your chance to stagger is increased by 50%, and you can only draw great axes. Sword and Shield, so while guarding, posture resistance increased by 50%, and you can only draw Sword and Shield weapon cards. Swordsman, weapon damage increased by 30%, you can only draw sword cards. And finally, the Longsword Specialist, whilst you're invulnerable, so that's after you do a perfect block, your weapon damage is increased by 80% for that duration. So it's only for about 2 seconds, so you might get 2 hits in, and you can only draw longsword weapon cards. So with all that in mind, the way I would rank these if I was doing an DCBAS tier list, I would have the Sword and Shield in a D tier list because the posture resistance is not that useful. I would have the hammer as well, the hammer specialist, so your secondary attack for broken posture, it's not that great. The great axe and the great weapon would be my other two that I would have in the D tier because it's reliant on being frenzied for some, and your posture impact is not that big of a deal. In the C tier is where I would put twin sword and dual wielder. So twin sword being frenzied damage increased by 70%, and multi-strike whilst frenzied. So again, this is only because their requirement is being frenzied, and unless you have your frenzy time up a lot, you're not getting anything out of it. So they could probably be higher if you were better at the game, but I was never very good. So I would put them smack bang in C tier. Next, I'd put Longsword and Generalist. So Generalist just having a 17% increase and some armor, easily a B tier. And Longsword, whilst invulnerable, weapon damage increased 80%. So if you get that perfect block, it's useful. I wouldn't put it any higher. A tier, I have Swordsman and Berserker. So Swordsman, straight weapon damage increased by 30%. Only draw sword cards. Straight up, just a good card. A good trait or class. And Berserker, critical hit chance based off your missing health is also good with only axe class weapons. You can pair them up with some of the unique traits that will be coming up and can make some very interesting builds, especially if you do Berserker, where you will have 0 armor but you'll have bulk health, and then if you have less health you've got massive critical chance. So there's a chance to have quite a strong build, just have no health. And by far the best weapon class, in my opinion, is the Twin Axe Specialist. Again, it's a while frenzied part, but it's more to do with the drawing Twin Axe weapons, and with the ultimate weapon being the Hatchets of Glacial Advance, which is the best weapon in my opinion by far. It just gives you a quicker chance of getting it, and that's why I consider it in the S tier, but arguably you can make some of the other classes there as well. But it's my list, and that's what you got. Lastly, we have your unique traits. Okay, so unique traits, you got defensive, armor increased by 15. Commanding presence, thorns increased by 25% of max health, and a perfect guard increasing it by 50%. So thorns is if you get hit, they take damage. Fairly straightforward. But the goal is don't get hit, so not always the best choice. Next you've got Born of Blood, so your grey health armor is increased per missing health. Again, you're not really wanting to take damage, so that's not your best option. Prey on the Weak, attacks against enemies with at least half their posture broken, has 11 increased damage. It's just a flat damage increase, not even percentage damage, so stronger earlier than it is later, falls off. Parrier, health is reduced by 50%. Perfect guard, doesn't affect your posture. High risk, high reward sort of trait. Aggressive Thrillseeker, while frenzied, critical hit chance is increased by 50%, and your frenzy duration is increased by 100% of your critical hit damage. Dodger, a perfect dodge does not consume a dodge token. Bloodfueled, weapon damage increased by percentage missing health, which this one you could pair up with that Berserker as well, so you get increased damage as well as critical chance. So there's some pairings that can be done. Death of 1,000 cuts, so 30% reduced base damage, but multi-strike increased by 20%. Berserker, so you can't gain armor, but your health is increased by 2% per weapon damage. So as you increase your damage, you can have that. You pair that again with the other Berserker, could have high damage and high critical chance. Painbringer, magic potency increased by 55% per status effect, currently active. So if you had a bulk status effect build, could be very strong. And calculating 50% reduced base damage when surge. Surge is actually what they used to call frenzy. So again, it's you can tell that they didn't quite update everything before they left the game. But surge, or while frenzied, but while surge is or frenzy is active, weapon damage is increased by 300%. Now, taking all of that into account, I think these are a little bit more clear cut than the weapons, with some being just not worth it in my opinion. So straight up, in the D tier, I've got Calculating, so straight up here, you don't have the surge time up or the frenzy time up enough for this to be worth it, not for the 50% reduction in your base damage. Prey on the weak, again, you don't, it's just an additive, it's only good maybe at the start, not great. Born of Blood, again, you're not wanting to take hits, so grey health armor is pointless. And defensive, it's 15 armor's alright I guess at the very start, but nothing to write home about. It can just stay, don't take it. In your C tier, I've got Parrier, which is a high risk, high reward. Could maybe be higher, but I was never very good at doing any of that. Dodger, having your perfect dodge doesn't consume a dodge token, that's fine, but you got to really pay attention for that. Again, was never very good at any of that. I just got bulk damage and just brute force my way through. And the other one in the C tier is Commanding Presence. You could make a few interesting builds with the Thorns idea. There are a few cards that can synergize well with it, but not probably the best choice. In B tier, we've got Bloodfueled, so weapon damage per missing health, and Painbringer. I think with a particular build, you could definitely make Painbringer quite a strong choice. In the A tier is Berserker. You can't gain armor, but the health increase. That's the one I used a lot to start with, because just having all that extra health meant I could just take the hits and it wasn't that big of a deal. Even if you didn't have the armor, you just had such high health it wouldn't matter. And aggressive Thrillseeker is just straight up a good one as well. So frenzied critical hit chance is that, but again, you're basing it off having frenzied uptime, and you can't guarantee that. So that's why I think by far the best one is your Death of 1,000 Cuts, and clearly sits in the S tier. 30% reduced base damage is annoying but not unmanageable, but having the multi-strike, in particular if you start adding in the on-hit effects, having that extra chance is far better. So that's where I sit for that one. Yeah, that is my tier list as far as their weapon classes would go. So my best one would be something like the Ulvar Twin Axe with Death of 1,000 Cuts if I wanted a long run, and if I was going for speed, having the human is probably your best option, and you can pick whatever human you would like. But that's my tier list. I hope you liked it, gained something from it. I could go through all of the cards as well and the skill tree, but a lot of that it's subjective, and there are a lot of synergies that can be found within that. So up to you. Yeah, hopefully you like it and you learnt something. Happy playing, I guess.